right? What you can do, if you still have aspirations beyond that, it may be time to hire. 3, you've mastered the art of proactively generating leads. Most team members are not and will not be highly effective lead generators. Okay? That's one reason their needs are satisfied in relationship with you as a team leader, is because you can provide leads. Now, I don't want to make that a blanket statement, because you'll see we teach that even your buyer specialist should be able to generate some leads. We're going to show you how your buyer specialist, you can develop them into knocking on FSBO doors, for example, in their designated geographic area. Okay, that they should start developing their own little FSBO inventory, because they're working with buyers, right? And sometimes there are attractive properties that meet buyers' needs that are not on the MLS. So we're going to teach that. But for the most part, you are going to wear the lead generation hat for the team. Okay? And then 4th, you've developed duplicable systems that can be delegated. So now your results are by design and not by happenstance. Okay? A system guarantees consistent results. And that's what you want in your business. Not a personality-driven business. Not it's all about me and my people skills and my sparkling, personality. No, it's about my system, and I can hire the right people and develop them to run that system and get the same result. Okay? Or at least an acceptable result. Remember, getting to the next level in your career, as you define that, it's going to require one of two things. You personally doing more, okay, working more hours, working harder, or you leveraging yourself through others. And I'm going to show you a little chart where you can devote 0 additional hours to your career and yet have hundreds of additional hours in your career devoted to building your business by building a team. The choice you make will determine whether you ultimately build a business or forever keep a job. And here's the explanation of that. Let's just say, for example, right now, and this is just for illustrations, that you're working 50 hours a week in your business. So your business is getting the equivalent of how many hours? 50, right? Because it's just you. You're working 50, your business is getting 50. But when you bring on a 40-hour-a-week transaction coordinator, which is our level 2, our tier 2, you are still working 50 hours. You have not increased, but now your business is getting the benefit of 90 hours. Okay? You go to tier 3. 100, you now have a buyer specialist in addition to a transaction coordinator. That buyer specialist is also putting in 50 hours just like you are. Okay? You're still working 50, but now your business is getting the benefit of 140 hours from your team members. And you can see at each step in the process, all the way, by the way, look with me at tier 6. Suddenly your hours went from 50 a week down to 30. It's getting better, right? More time on the boat, more time with the kids. Okay? And at tier 7, where you're fully leveraged out, we're saying you're working 5 hours a week. It doesn't have to be 5. It could literally be 1. Because your only responsibility at tier 7 is to hold your team leader accountable. That's it. That's it. Tier 8 is, if you want to go there, you're like, okay, I've got my team hitting on all cylinders, providing for me. I'm only spending an hour a week holding my team leader accountable, but I still have entrepreneurial aspirations. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start teaching other agents to build their team to run the systems that I am. So basically, you start franchising your systems. That's if you want to, okay? There's no judgment at any of these levels. And by that I mean, you might say, I just want to be a tier 1 agent. I don't want responsibility for any other person in my life. And my financial aspirations are such that I can satisfy them as tier 1. I think that's fantastic. Or maybe you want to go to tier 7 or anywhere in between. The point is, do you have a plan and a path that supports your aspiration? Do you know how to get where you want to go? And in this class, we will lay out step by step what it takes to get to each one of these levels. Okay? And then you just stop where your aspirations are satisfied.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
Kind of following up with that, but on a different level, because that's interesting. Have they done any research to see how many hours it takes to close a transaction, or to close a lease, or to close a sale, or a listing, or a buyer?
Yes.
I mean, how many phone calls, emails, all of that? How many hours does it take?
Yes.
To close one?
Yeah, I actually,
you know about
I saw one of those studies recently, and I'm going to guess on the numbers, but the ratio is going to be on track. But I think with a seller, it was about 12 hours. 12 hours invested. And with a buyer, it was about 5 times as much, about 60 hours. Okay?
That's
So,
in the beginning stages, is what you're saying?
yes,
Yeah.
time invested in that transaction. Okay? That's why we always teach that the leverage is in the listing relationship, right? You can work with 5 sellers in the time it takes you to work with 1 buyer. So, I actually had a 10-year agent ask me last fall in a consultation. It was actually a recruiting meeting conversation, which I always treat as a business consultation. And she asked me the question, do you think I should work with buyers or sellers? I mean, where's the most money? Which told me immediately she had not been well coached, right? 10 years in the business, and she was still wondering about that. And I didn't judge her for asking the question. I was actually delighted with the question, because then I knew I had an opportunity I could actually help her, which is the goal I have in every conversation, is to help her. And I was able to share numbers with her like that.
And that's in today's market, because back in '08, the listings weren't selling.
Right.
So I think the hours have probably changed at that point.
Yeah.
These are similar numbers
Yes.
in the current market, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, with buyers right now, it is really a struggle with the multiple offer situations. And I was working with a buyer last weekend, and they kept sending me, I would send them lists of properties. They would tell me which ones they were interested in, and 80%, by the time they responded to me same day, 80% of the properties they were interested in were already under contract that fast. That's a challenge. That's a challenge. So there we go. Okay, talent is the key. And let's get into this for just a minute, because we're talking about finding the right people. And how did we define talent? Anybody remember already? A talented person is somebody who is blank. A superb match for the job description. Okay? That means you can be highly talented in one area and completely inept in another. Is that true? Is that a good reflection of reality? We're good at some things and not at others, okay? How many of us can be talented at all 8 positions on an abundant sales team? No, we can't. So we want to hire the people who have strength where we have weakness, okay? So you're interested in filling each staff position with a highly qualified and motivated professional seeking a long-term career partnership, not an underqualified and unmotivated employee working for a weekly paycheck. Okay? Now there's a description of unique versus typical right there. Instead of settling for just anyone, go on a proactive search for talent. There's work involved here in finding the right people. You've probably heard the expression, hire slow and fire fast. Hire slow, fire fast, right? So this is the hire slow part. So who is talent? Someone who's a superb match for the job description and possesses the knowledge, skills, dispositions, and behavioral style required by the position. So do you know right now what is the job description for each of the 8 positions and the requisite knowledge, skills, and dispositions? You may not, but you will by the end of next week. It's all in the manual, okay? So finding and attracting talent requires time, energy, effort, and patience. Okay, typical response, that sounds expensive, that sounds hard. Okay, well, it is. But think of it this way. Is it when I have the money, I will hire talent, or when I hire talent, I'll have the money? Okay? Because we're going to coach you down a process, and we're not going to give you specific pay ranges for administrative and marketing staff people, but I am going to tell you we're going to stretch you on what you should be paying them. Okay? Because talent deserves good pay, right? In fact, you're probably, if you follow our system, you're going to pay your people more than anybody else.
What's the system of finding the talent?
That's next week. We're going to go through all the sources of finding talent. All we're trying to do right now is set your mind that I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I recognize it's going to require an investment. Okay?
I hate paying.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I hate that I'm going to have to pay my assistant for 8 hours of training.
Yes.
But it's so important because I'm cheap.
Yes.
I go, I don't want to send her down to HAR for training on
Right.
Tempo because I haven't paid her for a whole day.
Yes.
Drive and all of it, but because I put it off, it's taking more of my time to sit with her.
Yes.
And I explain it to her, and I don't have time to do that.
I can make you feel better about that. I can make you feel fabulous
Yeah.
about paying her for training, okay? If you take this perspective on it, I'm investing money.
Yeah, I'm already there because
Yep.
I've drug her along for a couple weeks. She's brand new. I
Yes.
just started, and I've drug her along enough to where it's frustrating for both of us.
Yes.
because I don't have time to train her, and I recognize I'm going to have to.
Yes.
I have one who has no real estate experience. I
Uh.
went back and forth on that. What do I do? But anyway.
Okay, when you make an investment, what do you demand of it?
That pays off.
Efficiency.
No, think of financially. If you're going to throw 10 grand in the stock market, what are you demanding of that 10 grand?
It's got to be
It's
money.
gonna pay off.
It's got to pay off. And how do we describe that in financial terms?
Investment.
A return on investment, right? We're demanding a certain return. By the way, what is your demand? If you were to put money into the stock market, what would you require of that money? What kind of return? What would be a good return?
Safer. If I got 12% on something right now, I feel pretty good.
If you could get 12% consistently, you would beat Warren Buffett.
Yeah, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, I bet you would, right? Yeah. So what do most investors expect when they put money in the stock market? Let's say long range, over the course of 20 or 30 years.
Well, what was the S&P average? I mean, that's gotta be kind of what they expect.
7%.
Yeah, I was going to say 6, 7%, right? If you get 8 to 10, that's a bang up year. If you could do 12 consistently, you'd own the world,
Yeah.
right? In a few years, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to feel really good about the investment of time and training that you make in an employee. Okay, so hold that thought. Okay? So here we go.
That's a segue.
It's a beautiful segue.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what we're going to coach you is to never make a hire unless you can expect a 30% return on that investment. 30%. Far better than you're going to get even in investment real estate. Okay? But if you can get 30%, if you do the calculations and you can get a 30% return, make that higher every single time. Okay? So here's just a quick analysis. Let's say you hire a full-time transaction coordinator and pay that individual $45,000 a year. Who does that? That's crazy good money, isn't it?
Not me right now.
Okay. So we agree that's a lot of money. Okay? Way over market. Why would we ever do that? Okay.
Because they're talented and they've already been trained on a certain level to where you don't have to, you can pay them the higher dollar because you get more out of them.
Okay, another way of saying that is because we've done the math and we're going to get at least a 30% return on our investment. That's why. That's the only reason we hire anybody, is that they're going to cover their expense and provide at least a third more to us. Okay? So example, if we demand a 30% return from this person on a $45,000 salary, $58,500 better show up in our business as a result of making this hire. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, an average commission rate of 3%, that means we better add almost $2 million in production as a direct result of making this hire. Okay? So at an average sale price of $165,000 in this example, that means we better get an extra transaction a month. So here's the thought process. If I hire somebody and pay them $45,000, can I get an extra transaction a month as a result of making that investment? If I can, I better do it. Okay? So that's the question. Can you generate one more beyond your current production? This is additional. By delegating your administrative activities. If yes, congratulations. You just earned 30%. Okay? If no, don't make the hire just yet. If you can't add an additional, because you're going to have hours freed up, right? When these administrative duties are taken off your plate, and let's say it frees up 20 hours a week or 15 hours a week in your calendar. In those 60 hours a month, if you cannot generate one additional closed transaction in 60 hours, what do you need to focus on instead of hiring? You need to spar, study, practice, act, and review your skills to increase your lead generation skills. Okay? Because you should at least be able to close one additional buyer in 60 hours a month or 5 sellers, right? Lead generate, lead convert, and close. Okay? So make sure you're operating at a highly efficient, effective level, that you can make really good use of these hours that are freed up. Okay? The truth, talent isn't cheap. Talent is not cheap. You can hire people who are cheap, but people who are a superb match are not. Talent, if trained and held accountable, will take ownership of their position. They're a superb match for the position. They've been developed to perform at a high level. They're being held accountable on a weekly basis. They're going to own that position. Okay? They're going to take it to another level. Talent will free your time, allowing you to focus on making more money and seeking further opportunities. Okay? By the way, that $45,000 for a transaction coordinator is not a recommendation. Here's our basic philosophy on compensation. You should pay as much as it takes to get talent in the position, but not a penny more. Okay? So if you can find talent for 35, that's your number. If you can find it for 18, that's your number. But be careful if you're in those lower echelons, because you might just be hiring people and not talent. Okay? So as much as it takes, that will generate the required return, but nothing more. Okay? So first things first. We've got just a few more. Y'all hang in there 10 more minutes with me? Okay, I want to make a little bit more progress so we've got time to get through everything next week, okay? So first things first, to get the right person, you must first create a vision of the right person, okay? If we define talent as a superb match for the job description, what must we start with? What do we have to have before we have the person? The job description, right? We have to know the picture to match the person to it. Does this person look like this, okay? So we have to start with a job description, okay? Since talent's defined as someone who's a superb match for the job description, we have to have a job description for every position on our team, okay? A job description, what is that? We're going to break it down really simple. It is a list of the vital activities for the position. Kim, it's a list, it's the systems that individual is going to run. That's a job description. How simple is that? By the way, how many job descriptions have you seen in your life that match that definition? Not many. Okay? Here's the job description, i.e., here's exactly what you're going to be doing in this position and the sequential steps in which you're going to do and how you're going to do each of these tasks. Wouldn't that make talent feel better? Oh, I know what the expectations are. Core belief. Conflict only arises when expectations differ. Okay? If the people you're hiring know exactly what you're expecting, you are eliminating conflict from day one. Okay? You're eliminating disappointment from day one. All right? So in addition to finding someone who's a superb match for the job description, you're also searching for someone who is competent to fill each position. And competency goes beyond simply the ability to do those tasks. It means they have the knowledge, skills, and dispositions, personality type that lends itself, and they're willing to be held accountable to those activities, to those pre-established performance standards. Okay? And when you get into listing specialists, conversion specialists on your team, they not only have the list of activities or the systems to follow, the performance standards here means you're expecting results also. You're expecting them to convert at a certain rate. So they're not just following up with this buyer using your system, they're also expected to convert 25% of those into closings if that's your benchmark for the position. Okay? If they fall below that, developmental opportunity. If developmental opportunities don't get it done, then clearly you have the wrong person in the position. Okay? But you have a standard. So you know what's expected and so do they. Okay? Key competencies, knowledge, appropriate education, licensing, understanding of the position. Skills, the ability to perform to the standards of the job. They can get it done at the appropriate conversion rates, the appropriate time allotted for the task. Dispositions, qualities of mind and character. Performance standards, defined by the desired results for each position. I expect the financial statements for our team to be ready by the 25th of the month. That's a performance standard. Okay? When hiring someone to fill a leadership position, and a leadership position on your team is a team leader, listing specialist, or buyer specialist. Those are the leadership positions. You must look beyond talent. The person must be mature enough for the position, credible enough for the position. People will take them seriously, and possess a high level of integrity. Okay? Because these are the people who are ultimately going to determine the success of your team, particularly as you leverage your way out. Okay? Assembling job descriptions along with key competencies provide a clear definition of the right person for each position. You know exactly what that person looks like. Now you just simply have to find a candidate who looks like that. How easy is that? Okay? In terms of knowing what you're attempting to accomplish. So, following are examples of organizational charts, job descriptions, and key competencies. So you don't have to start from scratch. And I'm just going to run through that. I'm just going to show you these on the screen. We're not going to go deep on any of them today. Tier 2 is when you bring on your first hire, a transaction coordinator. We do not recommend a buyer specialist to be your first hire. Okay? You're going to be more dollar productive if you can peel off the administrative tasks first. You continue to work with the buyers and sellers in the additional time freed up. So there's Tier 2. And here's the job descriptions for each. At Tier 2, oh, guess what? You still have a whole bunch of responsibilities. Here they are. But look at all these activities that you gave up that your transaction coordinator has now assumed. And by the way, these little parentheses after each duty is the specific aspect of the operational model that they're assuming responsibility for. Whether it be a lead generation activity, an administrative activity, a T&D, a training and development activity. That's what all those mean. Okay? Tier 3. Now you add a buyer specialist to your team. That's your second hire. Now look what happens. Suddenly your activity list got smaller because you've peeled off the transaction duties, the administrative duties, and the buyer specialist duties. The buyer specialist has picked up those duties, so you've already gotten some relief. Your transaction coordinator duties have not changed. Because all you did at this point was peel off some of your duties and give them to the buyer specialist.
So I think it's funny to have the primary agent still placing and removing lockboxes.
Well, that's because we don't have a runner yet. Okay? Now, you can define your transaction coordinator position as you wish, and you could put that on their job description if there are enough career hours for it.
Saving it for running and making them more effective on what they do.
Yes. Yeah. Again, this is a suggestion. It's a
No, I
template.
understand now.
Yeah.
You said that. I was kind of thinking that's still in there.
Yes.
And it makes sense.
Okay. We will peel it off the primary agent at some point. You'll see it.
Yeah, please tell me I can stop driving around with signs.
Yes, there is a future for that. Yes. Okay, so Tier 4, there's now 5 of you on the team. We have broken the transaction coordinator position into two positions, a listing coordinator and a closing coordinator, and we've added a runner. Here's where you take the signs out of the back of the car. Okay? All right, and here are the job descriptions at level 4. Primary agent, buyer specialist, the same. But oh look, now the transaction coordinator's gotten some relief. The listing coordinator's taken some of those, the runner has taken some of those, and the closing coordinator has an abbreviated list as well. Okay? Tier 5. Now we have 6 positions on our team. What we have added here is a marketing and technology coordinator. This is where the marketing person comes in. And they assume specific duties. So here's the job descriptions on each. You see your marketing coordinator has picked up a lot of these duties that the listing and closing coordinator were doing. And you still got your runner there. All right, Tier 6. At this point, we have added an administrative assistant who has peeled off additional duties from the listing and closing coordinators. Look at the primary agent duties now. Getting really sweet. This is where you've gone to 30 hours a week, right there. Your listing specialist is doing the listings. Buyer specialist working with the buyers. Listing coordinator, marketing coordinator, closing coordinator, administrative assistant, and a runner. Okay? The only thing this team lacks from having you fully leveraged out of your business is a team leader. Somebody, because in this role, your duties as primary agent, providing mission and vision, preparing and reviewing the economic, operational, and organizational models, recruiting team members, training team members. You are the team leader. That's what those duties are. So all you need to do now is hire a team leader and you're out. So that's what Tier 7 is right here. Now you have inserted a team leader into the mix and you step into the owner role. Now guess what? You can go on that year-long cruise around the world, okay? Because you've got somebody holding them accountable on a weekly basis. And there's all the duties. There's no owner duties, by the way. It just starts with team leader who picked up your responsibilities in Tier 6.
How many people make it to that point?
Oh, gosh. Let me say this. I know one agent right now who's living that personally. Was the first RE/MAX agent I knew. First RE/MAX agent I met in Houston. Okay, good friend of mine. He actually, I think he was the HBJ number 3 overall agent team leader in Houston last year. And he lives in Canyon Lake. Okay, up on top of a mountain. Yeah, I've been with him, sat outside with him on his pool, watching the hawks circling around at eye level. Very cool, okay? Having said that I know one agent living that, I probably personally know 8 to 10 who could be doing this. Their business is to the point where they don't have to. They could hire a team leader and be out.
I'm sure it's hard to let go.
Hard to let go, and keep in mind, some people love this business.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy it. My dad is an entrepreneur, and he's saying, when are you going to retire? Come on. He starts businesses, get them went, and then he sells them, and he has so much money that he doesn't need to work.
Yes.
He's 70 years old. He can't do it. He
Right.
can't stop,
Right.
You know, and I'm glad because it keeps him going. But
I anticipate
what to do.
that I am always going to sell real estate.
Yeah.
I hope so. I'm not always going to be in a management role or training role, consulting role, but when I get to the point that most people would retire, I'm going to continue to sell because I thoroughly enjoy it. It helps me keep my skills up, keeps your mind fresh and alert. That's a beautiful thing about our business. We don't have to retire from it, right? So, but yeah, I know a lot who could do this. Now these are, by the way, knowledge, skills, dispositions, and performance standards for each of these 8 positions. So again, you don't have to invent this. Here's a nice template to get started with, all the way through. Does that take some burden off? Okay, that's it. As far as I want to go today, okay, for each of those positions. Next week, what we're going to do is actually go through the hiring process. And you said, where do you find these people? That's in depth on each of those, okay? So from today's discussion, any ahas? Any insights been generated?
Yeah, I think that, the way I was looking at it was I really want someone to do it all like
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
But, that's few and far between. And hiring the administrative person first to do all the stuff that I really, really don't want to do,
Yes.
I think that's the key.
That's the start.
But
Yes.
in my mind, I would want that person to also show some homes or also, do something else. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
feasible just to hire that particular
Yeah, one person to wear the other 7 hats or 6
Right.
hats.
But I will tell you something that's worked out great for me, because I also do the loans as well, and I have a fantastic loan processor.
Yes.
And she does a great job, and it takes a ton of pressure off me just on that fact.
Yes.
So she's great at that, and so I was thinking, man, if I could get the administrative person that's just fantastic,
Yes.
I could really do a lot of the other things that's
Yes.
what I like to do.
Focus on the buyer and seller listing specialist
And
positions.
pay them market value.
Yeah.
People getting out of college are making 45, 50
Yes.
grand a year. Hire someone that's sharp like that.
Right.
That doesn't have the, I want to go meet people
Right.
attitude. I mean, some people want to be in an office all day.
Well, and I think I really struggle. The lady I hired is older, in her 50s, and I really struggle because I was initially looking for someone right out of college that would be